Yo, what's up guys? I wanted to make a brief, like a short video to update my Shaco builds. My guide was a few months ago and not much changed to be honest, but I get the question a lot, like what do we do with the new Voltaic? Opportunity got removed, like what is the build? First of all, let's get straight into it. The core build in 90% of my games is Umbral into Voltaic Cyclosaurs. Like Umbral is like almost always my first item rush. It is I always get the question, is Voltaic better to rush or Umbral better to rush? And the answer is Umbral. Umbral is cheaper. It's now 200 gold cheaper after the nerfs, and it's also like more damage against less than full HP targets. Also it has more like utility with the vision passive. It is like the stronger, earlier power spike while also having this insane utility with the vision. So it also has the better build path, so I always rush Umbral Glaive. The second item, for me, in like 90% of the time, is Voltaic. This item just deals insane damage. Like, this item got nerfed, it's like 100 gold more expensive now, but this changes nothing. This is basically like the old Voltaic price, so I'm still always gonna buy it as my second in like 99% of the games. After you have these two items, you will deal insane damage. Like the on-hit from these two combined, it's like, it feels so good to be honest. Your third item is usually, like, I prefer to go Humus, but if you want, you can also go Profane if you want, and this is also viable. You can decide, do you want Humus for more gap closing, or do you want Profane for more damage? Profane will be more damage, but honestly, I prefer to have Humus over Profane a lot of the times, because I value the, you know, movement speed that much. Usually, depending on what comp you play against, if assuming you play into a full squishy comp, like the enemies like mages, 80 carries, like no tanks, bruisers, no one really buys ninja types for some reason, you know, there's no reason to go crit, so you don't go Lord Dominic's. If you need to buy an armor penetration item, you would want to go for Cerillas. Because A, they don't have any HP, while Giant Slayer is, you know, gonna be useful, and B, like Cerillas is 300 gold less expensive, and has the better base stats. It gives you 10 more AD, and this will just be the stronger power spike. This is especially important when you are snowballing and you're stomping, and there's no reason to, you know, take the extra risk of going crit item, because crit items are like bigger risk but a higher rewards when you have Infinity Edge. But there's no reason to do that when you are already snowballing and already like hard stomping the game. So to close out the game, you want to have quicker and more consistent power spikes, and Cerilla is the better option for that. And then last item could be something defensive to protect your shutdown, like Edge of Night. This would be a perfect build. Sometimes, when you are so ahead, you don't even need to buy Cerillas. Like, you will have so much lethality that you can just do full lethality and still deal true damage to the enemy. Obviously, this works only against people that don't build against you, which is kind of rare, but it happens. But yeah, you have to decide that in the game, does the enemy buy armor? Then you might need to go for like Cerillas as your fourth item. Sometimes when you are really behind, you cannot afford to go Humus as your third item. For example, when you are even or like you die once or twice, and you have built these items and you see, okay, the enemy already has like Deadman's Plate or like they buy Ninja Tabis already, then you want to go for a third Cerillas Grudge. But depending on how ahead you are, like the further away you can push this Cerillas purchase. This is like the first build, pretty solid. The second build is the Critality build. It combines crit and lethality. By the way, you never buy crit first. You always start with lethality, okay? Like, and the only two good crit items are armor penetration and Infinity Edge. So Mortal Rewinder, Lord Dominic's, and Infinity Edge. Those three items are the only good crit items, guys. Like, any other item gets outclassed by lethality counterparts. Okay, that being said, the core build is the same. You can still do Humus third or Profane, however you want. And then your first crit item will always be armor penetration. Like, you don't go Infinity Edge first, you don't go Sensory by Collector, whatever. The first crit item will always be armor penetration. So in most cases, it will be Lord Dominic's, like this. In edge cases where the enemy has a lot of healing, you can go Mortal Reminder, it's fine, but honestly, you're not the best anti-heal applier, so Lord Dominic's will be like your go-to armor penetration item, and 90% of the time. When is this good? When do you go Critality? You go Critality when the enemy stacks HP and the Giant Slayer passive becomes really good, and when you need the damage. So I'm telling you, like, this build, you go when the enemy doesn't have any defensive items, right? They don't buy armor, they don't buy HP, whatever. But the moment the enemy buys, like, they have something like Trinity Corki, or like They have like tier 3 Ninja Tabi on Akshan mid. Like, they are kind of beefy, and the enemy is not that far behind, or you're maybe not that snowballing right now. And where you just know, okay, wait, actually, I might need the additional damage. Like, this game might like last a few more minutes, and you feel like you just need the additional damage. Then you can do the Critality option. The first item will be Lotominics. The first crit item will be Lotominics, and then you can go for Infinity Edge last. And this is actually, like, instead of Humus, if you have Profane, like, this is actually the highest damage Shaco build right now. Like, this exact build is like the most insane damage. It is really good, but as I said, don't always do this. Like, you have to make this decision based on draft, based on comp, like how far the enemy is ahead, how far you are ahead. But up to this point, it's usually the same. Like, they build the same, right? It's the same core. One thing you can do, you can go Lotominics, and depending on how much money you have on your next bag, you can do another lethality item. Because one thing that's really annoying about Infinity Edge is when you don't have the money to afford BF sword, right? If you reset with 700 gold or like whatever, like what are you supposed to buy? You can buy this, and then it's kind of awkward, and you sit on this shit for like 20 minutes. Sometimes it's better and more efficient, the better tempo purchase, to just go for another lethality item. Like, let's say you can do this, and then you can sit on this and you can build it into Edge of Night, which is also totally fine. Completely fine too. You can maybe just sit on Lotominics and not build into Infinity Edge. But the beautiful thing about Infinity Edge, the beautiful thing about Lotominics fourth is that you have the option, right, to transition to crit. This will be the most damage, but then again, you don't need to buy Infinity Edge, especially if you have awkward money afterwards, you know. Like, sometimes it's just better to buy the stronger item in the moment instead of buying nothing and being weaker. When you need the additional damage, you can go Critality. There's another variant I want to talk about, and it is against tanks and melee heavy comps. It's like with Blade of the Rune King, sometimes you see me buy this item. I sometimes go Bork when I play against very melee heavy matchup. Like, the enemy has like Silas jungle, then they have something like Galio mid, or like top lane they have Garen, like completely melee, Braum support, and then they have something like low range Samira, you know. A game where you can auto-attack a lot, like skirmish heavy, right? And in those games, you want to go Blade of the Rune King, because they will always stack HP, like bruisers and melee champions usually stack HP. That's why I want to incorporate Blade of the Rune King in this build. And the best way to do it is like Voltaic, this, because usually when you play into these type of comps, these champions will buy armor early. You don't want to really delay your Dominics, or sometimes you can't delay your Dominics because they keep buying or rushing armor early. I would still, like, you can still rush Umbral Glaive, and you can actually still do this core, like Umbral into Voltaic. You can do like this, right? And go Bork third. But sometimes that's too late for your Dominics. Sometimes they already have so much armor that you need armor penetration earlier. You can do this into this if you want, but technically, like, the most damage you can get against tanks and armor is going Cyclosword into Bork into Dominics. This way you don't delay your armor penetration, and you also have like the most on-it damage. And yeah, after you have this, you can decide to go, like, you can go crit, you can go Infinity Edge for the most damage once again. But if you play against tanks and bruisers, it helps to be somewhat bruisery yourself, like have some HP. So I personally like to go for earlier Edge of Night, and then if you want, you can finish with this. But you can also finish with another defensive item, like you can go for GA here, or like more if they have AP. Against these melee bruiser comps, it is unlikely that you one-shot anyways, so it's more important that you can stay in the fight for longer and like deal more DPS, you know? Okay, next build, my last build I want to talk about. Sometimes you see me play Eclipse Bork with Trinity. It is not something I do very often, but it is exactly into these comps I talked about like a second ago, like where you play against full melee. Yeah, bruisers, skirmish heavy team comps. Like, let's say the enemy has Lethan, Silas, top lane they have a fucking Garen, whatever. Like, you know this very close range, like people that wanna like jump you and wanna fight you. And against these types of comps, you can still do this build if you want. This is a bit more chill to play and still okay build in my opinion. This one gives you like HP, like good skirmish stats, whatever. This is pretty good. Like Eclipse also gives you the shield, nice damage. Like these two items make you kind of tanky, especially if you're snowballing. You can stat check the enemy a lot with this. Yeah, it's kind of easier to play the game, because usually when you play into these bruiser heavy, melee heavy comps, like the enemy usually has a lot of threats for you, and you are at risk of dying a lot. And these items basically help you, you know, not die as much. I like to go Bork third, and then if you want to like commit to the damage part, you can go this. This will still deal a lot of damage, but you can also, if you want, go more defensive here, but you know, it's up to you. This is something I do very rarely, like I have to admit, but sometimes you see me do this. Then I want to briefly talk about boots. I think all of these are fine. I usually finish my boots after my first item, like after Umbreglaive, and then 90% of the time I go Berserker Greaves, but I think all of these boots are also fine. You can decide which boots you want. One thing I do though is I sometimes just, like, this depends on how far ahead you are or how far behind you are. Like if you are behind, I like to sit on these boots. Like don't upgrade your boots too early if you are behind. Because if you are behind, you cannot afford to waste money on stuff like attack speed or like haste on this. Like you need your second power spike, you need damage. So keep that in mind. If you're behind, try to finish your next item and then maybe you can upgrade. But usually I get to have a lead in the early game and I just finish my boots second. And I think that's it regarding the build. I think summary, Umbral Voltaic, the best core, like it's so good, nice damage. And then depending on how the game goes or how the enemy drafted, you can decide to go for more lethality. I really like this core, I really love it. And then the moment you decide if you want to go for armor penetration, you can be like, okay, what does the enemy have? Does the enemy have HP or does the enemy is very squishy? So then you decide between Lord Dominic's or Cyrillas, you know? And when you have Lord Dominic's, then you can make the decision, do I want to go Infinity Edge or not? Don't go Infinity Edge if you don't have Lord Dominic's. This is not worth it, guys. Trust me. Like, at this point, just buy another lethality item like this. But only go Infinity Edge if you have Lord Dominic's. Like when the enemy has, when the enemy has lots of shielding, like a lot of enchanters, you might want to go Serpents Fang. But what I do is still like this core, like Umbral Voltaic is always the core. I will never, like almost never change it. And then instead of Humus or Profane, you can do Serpent's Fang third. Like this, for example, if you need the like anti-shield. And then once again, you can decide, do you need armor penetration? Then you do this. Can you still afford to buy another lethality item? You can do this. You know, you get the gist, right? I want to briefly talk about the runes next. Like it didn't really change from my guide, but let me just like rush this over. Like this is the same. When you ask, okay, by the way, Hail of Blades. My thoughts on the new Hail of Blades. The true damage is like you don't notice the damage. You notice the drop in attack speed, but it's okay. You know, it's like a neutral change. I don't really, I guess whatever. Like it's still the best rune for 80 Shaco. Sudden Impact, 6th Sense, really important. And then I prefer Treasure Hunter. You can do Relentless if you want. I prefer this one right now. And then once again, the same 3 rune pages secondary are good. You can do this with attack speed and cut down if you want attack speed. This is good into like these bruiser melee comms that I mentioned, where Trinity or like Bork is fine. Like you want this additional attack speed that helps you in these like skirmishes in the early mid game, right? One thing I really like to do currently is the sorcery for the most scaling, because in my experience the games drag out a lot in this season. Matchmaking is very weird, and I feel like you play a lot of games with like master, like lower elo players, and so for me I noticed games drag a lot. You know, the games last too long. This just basically ensures I can like one-shot when it goes on too long. You know, it's nice. It's the most scaling, most damage. I like it. But then again, inspiration still perfect. You can do magical footwear or cashback, one of those two. And then you can either go approach velocity or cosmic insight or even triple tonic if you want. Like this is usually when I go inspiration, this is my go-to rune page. But currently I must say this is my most used rune page. But you can experiment yourself, do what you want. I think you can't go wrong with either of those 3 rune pages. That's it. Anything else? I think that was it. Might have forgotten something. But yeah, if you have any questions, leave them down below in the comments. And you can always ask me in Discord, on stream, here in the comments. Like, yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. See you next time.